What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. I got another dope video for y'all.
For entertainment purposes only.
So make sure y'all stay tuned to the end. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And leave a comment. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video.
An eruption started between Sýlingarfell and Hagafell at 10 p.m. The Civil Defense of Iceland has declared a state of emergency. The fissure is around 4 kilometers in length and keeps growing. There is risk of lava flowing to the town of Grindavík. The town of Grindavík has been evacuated, and nobody was in the Blue Lagoon or the geothermal power station in Svartsengi when the eruption started. Here you can see the location of the eruption on a map. Reykjanesbraut, the highway between Keflavík Airport and Reykjavík, the capital, was closed earlier this evening, but has now been opened so passengers are able to reach their flights.
Monday night, a volcano erupted, sending molten rock flying in the air over 300 feet. I wish the best for those folks.
Morbid facts about Michael Jackson, Part 4. Michael Jackson once paid a witch doctor $150,000 to put a curse on Steven Spielberg. The expensive ritual involved the slaughtering of dozens of animals, including 42 cows. All because Spielberg didn't give Michael the role of Peter Pan in his 1991 film Hook. The director had previously promised Michael the part, but decided to make the movie a comedy instead of a musical and went with Robin Williams instead. This was devastating for Michael, since he famously had an obsession with Peter Pan and the idea of never growing up. In 1988, Michael purchased a private amusement park that he would name Neverland Ranch and live at for 25 years. He invited children from all over the world to his home, typically as charitable events for kids in need. But in 2003, Michael was charged with multiple counts of essaying a minor, and Neverland Ranch was searched extensively by police. Despite being acquitted of all charges 2 years later, Michael never returned to his home.
The bunny dog that presses the buttons and shit.
Oh yeah.
So, did you know recently they had to give it medications because the dog started to think and started to ask itself, why is it human?
No.
Yo, we didn't talk about this?
No, we didn't. What the fuck?
So that dog that was infamous on TikTok, literally so famous, they press buttons like, bunny eats now.
Yeah.
Bunny wants walk. Whatever, right?
He started questioning himself.
So the owners, they ended up putting buttons onto the board that are a little bit more interesting, a little bit more advanced.
Okay.
They can make longer sentences. Bunny asked, why bunny dog?
Why? What? What? Love you? I don't know how to answer that.
Huh? And it would say that and walk toward the mirror and just look at itself for hours.
Oh no.
So they ended up having to give it depression medication because it became too aware of its own consciousness.
For a dog.
The dog. Because if you think about it, as a kid, right?
Yeah.
You become more and more conscious as you learn. As you learn how to speak, as you learn how to write, you can formulate your thoughts.
Yeah.
Now for a dog, it's probably the same thing. If it were taught to use its brain and taught to formulate its thoughts, eventually it would become aware of itself. And that's what happened.
Being a dog growing up thinking you a rabbit is crazy, but being depressed over it is wow.
How do dolphins communicate with each other? Beneath the ocean's surface, these intelligent creatures engage in an intricate language all their own. Using a combination of clicks, whistles, and body movements, dolphins create a symphony of sounds that convey meaning and forge deep social bonds. Their complex vocalizations allow them to communicate information about food, predators, and even emotions with remarkable precision. With each click and whistle, dolphins unlock the secrets of their underwater realm, revealing a communication system that rivals any human language.
Dolphin House experiment was an absolutely insane and messed up attempt to try to speak and communicate with dolphins. This guy, John Lilly, thought that he could literally teach dolphins to speak English. And he got funding from NASA to build a huge villa on the island of St. Thomas and got 3 dolphins for the experiments: Peter, Pamela, and Sissy. The 3 of them were from Marine Studios and had been in the movie Flipper. After a while, 22-year-old Margaret Howe showed up at the house wanting to work with the dolphins. He was supposed to encourage the dolphins to mimic human speech, and she started focusing on Peter because he hadn't had any training on mimicking human sounds. She would be like, 1, 2, 3, and Peter would be like, Peter was making some sort of progress, but the work stalled out. Margaret was like, well, we leave every night, and that's a lot of interaction and observation we're missing out on. So she proposed that they plaster everything on the top floor and flood it with waist-high water, and she would live up there with Peter. Lily was super into the idea, and over the next months, Margaret stayed in the flooded upper story of the house. She had a desk hanging from the ceiling and had a telephone and a stove and slept on a foam mattress. Meanwhile, Lily started getting really into psychedelics. He was like a full-blown hippie guru guy, and he had a bunch of celebrity friends like Jeff Bridges. Back at the house, Peter was getting really randy and rubbing on Margaret and not paying attention to her lessons anymore. But Margaret started giving him handies so they could get back to focusing on the lessons. She said it was easier to just incorporate that and let it happen, and that's a longer quote if you want to pause. Lily, obsessed with acid, decided he was going to inject the dolphins with it. He thought that if he took some and injected the dolphins with it, then both their minds would be more open and ready for communication. To her credit, Margaret was like, fuck that, and wouldn't let him inject Peter. So while they were upstairs, he went downstairs and injected Pam and Sissy with 200 micrograms apiece. Motherfucker even took a jackhammer to the side of their tank to try to get a reaction out of them while they were dosed. Soon their funding was cut and the dolphins were moved to small chlorine tanks in Florida, and Peter unalived himself. Dolphins have to consciously think to breathe, so Peter just sank to the bottom and held his breath till he was gone.
It seemed like that dolphin baited her in just to get what he want. Her dude had to be heavy on them shrooms to think that he can give dolphin shrooms and it'll be okay.
Check this shit out. Swatch. Currency across. Look at the UFO up in there, dude, through the microscope. What? So many hidden symbols, man. No one knows. Hidden in plain sight. Ready? Bam! Look at this. What's that look like? Ready? He's going. This is good. This is good. This is good. This is entertaining. Check this out. Jump on the top. See him? Look at this. Markings. Check this out. Ready? Wham! Voila! And we didn't make an agreement or know about these things. They were printing them in secrecy on the money. Look.
Have anybody ever tried this? It made me want to get a microscope. But you know what they say, they gotta put it in your face and let you know they doing it.
Most convincing evidence of time travel. There was a guy named Sergey. Randomly, he spawned in Kyiv 2006. All he has, he says, go look at my photos on my camera. Police develop his camera. All they see, some random girl and him back in Kyiv in 1950. So they're like, who is this girl? They ask the girlfriend, who is this to you? He's like, oh, this is my boyfriend, but that was back in the 1950s.
Damn.
And this is what happened. She said, oh yeah, he actually disappeared, but 2 years later, he came back to me. He had pictures, there's literally pictures on the internet of him in front of skyscrapers. So what Sergey said? He said this was pictures of him in 2050.
Oh, so he went in.
So he went in the future and he came back to her to tell. They're like, okay, this is getting weird. We need to like lock him up in a hotel and actually interview him.
Yeah.
So this is what happened. They find out there was another guy named Sergey from Kyiv, same description, same everything. He actually went missing way
Yo.
So they're like, who is this? They locked him in a high-rise hotel room, surveillance, everything, right? As soon as they're about to go in the room, they open the door, Sergey's not there no more.
Morbid Facts, Part 165. Frank Fritz of American Pickers left the show in 2020 to focus on his health following a feud with co-star Mike Wolf. Sadly, he suffered a debilitating stroke just last year and has been living under a temporary guardianship ever since. In 2008, suspected serial killer Ricky Simmons was found dead of heat stroke in the trunk of his ex-girlfriend's car. Investigators believe Simmons was waiting in the trunk to ambush and murder his ex-girlfriend, but he became locked in the vehicle. A 62-year-old Chinese woman who had a constant runny nose for decades was suddenly suffering from headaches and breathing problems. An x-ray soon revealed that she had a bullet lodged in her head near her nostril. She then remembered when she was 14 years old, she was going for a walk and felt a sudden stinging pain in her temple. She started bleeding but thought she'd only been hit by a pebble, so her family simply patched her up and didn't find it necessary to take her to the hospital. Apparently, she'd been shot in the head.
How you kill yourself trying to kill somebody else? And she tough to get shot in her head and think it was just a pebble?
We know how the situation will continue to develop because currently we're experiencing what our planet has faced in the past. These changes, caused by cosmic influence, occur once every 12,000 years, and we happen to be living in that very time. This is a cycle.
This is in Forney, Texas. An airplane fell out of the sky and landed on the highway, y'all. Look at this over here, y'all. Wow. I got another angle. This is in Forney, Texas. As you can see over here, they got the firefighters. The plane is right there in the middle of the highway, y'all. That's crazy. You see what's happening around the world, y'all?
Holy shit, a plane just crashed on 80. It's been stuck in traffic for...
So traffic has been bad. She says she's been stuck in traffic for an hour and a half, and now she's finally get to see the crash. But yeah, y'all, man, these movies, they're not predictions, y'all. They are stories. They're telling us a story, y'all. What is going on in the world? Y'all see it. I don't even have to tell y'all. Thank goodness that this man is safe, because it could have been a lot worse than that, y'all. But what do you make of this, y'all? So many things are happening into this world all at once, and it's getting more interesting. Just think about what all the movies have been telling us. Everything is coming to fruition. So how can people really say that movies are just movies? They're just for entertainment. But again, just food for thought, y'all. I'm just sharing the information, sharing the news, y'all. Just to let you know, things are getting interesting and they're heating up. Literally and figuratively. Like, share, and follow for more videos like this. Keep up with me and my other...
Hey, y'all say what y'all want to say, but that pilot did a good job. He managed to land in the middle instead of landing on the road. I didn't hear nothing about no injuries.
So by now, a lot of us have heard of the movie Leave the World Behind, which everybody's saying was produced by the Obamas, which is very alarming. And I've been very hesitant to talk about this because I've always been accused of fear-mongering, but I'm telling you guys, you need to stop being passive. This is what the New Age spiritual community doesn't fucking get. Your love and light energy will only get you so far. Love and light is not going to stop these fuckers from doing what they're doing. Like, think about it this way. Somebody's charging at you with a knife about to stab you. How the fuck can you love and light them away? You need to do something about it. We have to remember we live in the physical world. This is a 3D world. So essentially with all these movies and all these clues and hints that they're giving you, the elite, they're basically saying, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do to you guys. So what the fuck are you going to do about it? You will have a bunch of people who won't believe these movies or what these politicians are straight up telling you because of cognitive dissonance, or maybe they just aren't ever going to awaken. But for those of you who do have brain cells and know what is going on and are taking these things very seriously, here's what you can do to help stop this paradigm from coming towards us. First, understand that there are more of us than there are of them. And I know the whole saying, oh, sheeple, but if you think about it, there's only one farmer and hundreds of sheep. If the sheep finally wake up and stop fearing, they could literally trample over that one farmer. We are talking 1% versus 99%. Do the math. See, in accordance to universal law or karmic law, they kind of have to tell you what they're going to do. Otherwise, they would get their asses lit on fire. I know I always say the elite, the Illuminati, they're so powerful. They are, but they're not the most powerful. There are entities that are even more powerful than them. Religious people call it God. I call them the Elohim, which is, it doesn't matter if it's a Judaic term, right? Elohim just literally means gods, plural. There are 15th dimension and higher gods that are willing to smite these Illuminati elite into oblivion if they do anything further. So what are the elite going to do? They're going to play by the rules, but very, very sly. So now that you know what's going on and you know that they're not fucking around, Mark Zuckerberg is literally building an underground bunker. So is Beyonce and Jay-Z, and all these rich ass people are coming together. They're not playing around. You don't just waste millions of dollars for nothing. If you want to save the asses of humanity, start to spread the word, start to awaken people. If you consider yourself a light worker, or hell, even if you're just religious and you know that this is going on, start to tell everybody. And I know this might ruin your reputation because people are going to look at you like you grew a third arm, but there's really not that much to lose because this is going to happen if we don't do something about it. And like I said in my previous videos, what you don't want to do is absolutely collapse society and destroy society, because there are a lot of innocent souls that don't deserve this kind of chaos. But what you can do is spread the word and tell as many people as possible what the dirty plan is. And then once enough people know what's going on, you can just not buy into the bullshit. If all of the military started to awaken to what the governments are doing, nobody would want to fucking work for the governments. The soldiers with all this training, they would literally turn against their own government if they figured out, oh, so this is what you're doing to us. I dedicated my whole life for you to just screw over humanity. That's great. Don't be passive. Spread the words. Say something. Do something. Even your frequency. If you are a very seasoned light worker, your frequency is pretty high, right? Even you just getting near somebody will spark a spiritual awakening. The more you can connect to others, the better chance we have of not manifesting this paradigm. And the better chance we have of awakening so many people that nobody's going to buy into this bullshit anymore. It's like, oh, you're trying to cause World War III. Who's going to fight it for you? Clearly, the military doesn't even want to do it for you. But anyways, if you guys want to learn more about this matrix system, how we got stuck here, how we can get out of here, what these elite want from us, and our true human power, because humans are actually hybrids of many different ET races, if you didn't know. My book, Made in God's Image, gives you basically every single information you've ever needed when it comes to this spiritual path. Link for my book is in my bio.
It's a lot of things they put in these movies, different symbolisms, messages. It's like real life is a movie now.
Did you know that color disappears the deeper that you go underwater? Red is the first color to disappear underwater. So I'm going to show you how this red bag starts to turn brown the deeper that I go. Color disappears underwater due to wavelength interference, and water absorbs some parts of the color spectrum faster than others. You'll often notice that underwater photographers use things like strobes, lights, and red filters to reintroduce color at depth. We're probably about halfway there or a little bit more, and you can see how much this bag has changed. As I'm going down, I'm actually equalizing, which is why my hand disappears and then comes back on the screen. Right there, I actually just point to a shark, a reef shark that's further in the distance. We are almost down to the sandy bottom, which is about 80 feet deep or 24 meters. So now that we're at the bottom, you can see the crazy difference from the surface to 80 feet down. I always wonder how many more colors are down here that I just can't see when I'm this deep.
I will never look at Home Alone the same again. Kevin McAllister is kind of the forgotten child. His parents neglect him. They don't really notice him until he's missing. He gets pushed around by his siblings. You can't really tell me his childhood was outstanding. Throughout the franchise, we see Kevin setting up all of these traps to protect himself from harm from these burglars. And these are very, very elaborate traps. Like, it took a lot to come up with this. Also, this is a fake person. These are all really deadly, dangerous traps. And yes, you know, he was defending himself. But was this a gateway to something a lot darker? Some would say it would take a mastermind to come up with traps this crazy, elaborate, and then as they get older, more dark and twisted. Mastermind like John Kramer, the Jigsaw Killer from the Saw franchise. Now, apparently they look similar, but like they have different names. Like this clearly is just like a fun little like headcanon theory, like not not legit. People also think this doll in the corner of the scene is a Jigsaw doll. Here's the doll in the scene compared to Billy the puppet. And they do have a lot in common. They both make deadly traps. They both had trauma and were neglected. You gotta let me know if you think Kevin grew up to be Jigsaw. Follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
I used to love Home Alone, but I think this reaching. But that would be cool if they connected the movies together and showed one with the teenage years. That'd be dope.
UFO story. And you know, the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of it, again, that's another story where there are some, you know, fanciful ideas floating around that are just, you know, there's no evidence that they're true. But if you talk to people who, you know, have actual knowledge of it that they gathered themselves, there are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I, you know, haven't told my wife about it. I mean, I haven't verified any of this, but this is not just stuff that I read on the internet. I know you all are very, very grounded in that story, so I think I know, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. And I think, last thing I'll say, that one of the reasons that we've had all these disclosures and all of these, 10 whistleblowers at this point, and it hasn't really become front page news. Part of it's suppression. You know, parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out. The implications are too profound. And so, and I understand that. Because I've heard things where I'm just like, oh man, I don't even really want to know that, honestly.
Deeply disturbing stuff. You know, forget like saucers,
you know what I mean?
and technology. It's deeply disturbing stuff that I haven't even told Natalie. Yep. I agree with you. It's so disturbing. Exactly. I can't even tell my kids. My kids ask me different stories about it, and I won't say it because it's so dark. It's so dark.
I totally agree.
Miles is watching. So.
Okay, Miles, if you're watching the show, Daddy's not going to tell you about that part of the UFO stuff and what's going on with the government.
Well, can I say one thing? They've known clearly. I mean, this is, I think, established, and I feel comfortable saying this as fact. The U.S. government, I mean, these are real, whatever they are. They're not human. And the government has known that for a long time, possibly going back to the 1930s at least. And, of course, there's tons of evidence in the written record, in the physical record, in paintings, and in literature, that people have been seeing and interacting with these things for a long time. So we know that. But the justification one often hears is, well, the government, various presidents who have been read in, not all have been, haven't wanted to disclose this because it would scare people. And I've always thought that's bullshit. You know, you're hiding a crime, which they are, by the way, in my opinion. But I do think there's a sense in which that's not totally crazy. Like, there is some stuff, if it's true, and I'm kind of thinking it may be true, that's so radical that, well, as we both said, we don't want to tell the people we love most about it because, like, why would you disturb someone like that? So I kind of get that. I hate to admit it. I'm not arguing for hiding things. I believe in the truth and I believe in disclosure, but I understand the impulse. Like, holy smokes, this is heavy. You know what I mean?
And the government's involvement in it makes it even heavier because then you realize the complicity.
Exactly.
These dudes seem like the type that make you believe Santa real until you like 13.